Okay, this video is going to be pretty short. It's called SQL Order of Execution. And it might be that you understand the order of execution in SQL, but I think if you're like me, this concept really helped cement it in. I'm not sure I necessarily learned something by going through this, but it really just made my knowledge in it feel a little bit deeper. And oftentimes, though, when I am talking with people on SQL, there are times when maybe the order execution isn't really well known, and therefore they don't understand certain concepts. So again, this will really help with that. First off, credit where credit's due. I got this post from this tweet. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this individual's name, but it was a great example of the quality of technical content on Twitter, and I think he just did an amazing job. I took his concepts, I applied it almost more towards a ROC query, so it's a little bit more applicable to, I think, our community. But again, all this I'm about to show is straight from this great tweet. So we're going to start with this SQL statement, which comes right from ROC. The specifics of this are not important, okay? So we're going to be talking about like high-level concepts, not so much like this exact query. What I want you to see here is this query kind of has almost everything a SQL query could have, maybe missing a few small things like windowing functions, but we have a select statement. It's limited to the top two. We have a from statement that does a join. We have a where clause for filtering. We do a group by, and we have a having, and then an order by. So pretty much has it all. Okay, let's walk through the order of precedence of how SQL Server will attack this query. First off, we can see that there really are two tables here. Okay, there's a person table and a group member table. And the color coding here, I think, is what really makes this concept kind of gel. So the person table, we have our key is in blue, and then its data is in red. The group member has its key in purple. Its foreign key to person is actually in blues and matches the person table. And then the rest of its data is in orange. So keep that color in your head, and we're going to kind of keep walking through this. Okay. The first thing that SQL Server is going to do is it's going to join the tables together. So it's going to attack that from clause. And so in this case, it's taking the person table and the group member table, and it's joining it together. So again, like we only have one blue column now because that was the foreign key. And then conceptually, we have all the data in red, and then we have all the data from the group member table. So the first thing that it does is it joins the data together. Next up, it's going to filter the data. So it's going to apply the where clause. So as you can see here, now we have fewer rows because we've applied our where clause. Next up, it's going to group it. Now in this case, and I notice the colors all changed, right? Because now they're in groupings. So we have, kind of like a purple grouping, we have a yellow grouping, and we have a green grouping. So after filtering, it's on to the grouping, and now everything is grouped. Next up is filtering again. So the having clause is basically the where clause that comes after it's been grouped. So again, this concept helps cement that in. Like some people forget what the having clause does. And if you think of it as like a post-grouping filtering or a second where clause that you get to do that gets considered after the grouping. So in this case, notice that we now have lost our green grouping because it didn't make the filter conditions in this case. Next up, we're going to run the select. So it's going to go up to those three columns that we said that we want to select, and it's going to bring back just those selected items, so selected columns. Then we move to order. So ordering will now be considered. Now this is, again, if when I'm working with other people, this is one area that maybe some people don't understand is like the ordering clause is actually one of the last things that gets considered. And so therefore functions and other things that are not necessarily straight columns in the database can actually be in the order clause because everything gets done before that. And then it gets the data, and then we'll order it by the columns that you have defined in the select. So you can have things like subselects that might be inside of your select statement, and those can be part of the order statement. And then the last thing, if your query has it, will be the limited. So limited to 2. So of course, this makes sense when you consider it that you have to order it before you can take the limit. In this case, we said we wanted 2, so we get the top 2. So this is the whole order of precedence again. Hopefully this is kind of helps cement these concepts in a little bit deeper, and maybe deepens and kind of enriches your understanding of SQL.